morning, Suder artists. Today we're doing something a little bit different, which is instead of doing a guided activity, I'm just going to introduce you to a style of art making for kids that is more based on choice and more guided by the child instead of the adult. So as you know, at Suder we have a choice-based art classroom. So that doesn't look the same as a lot of art classrooms you might see in other schools. We don't do a lot of teacher-guided art projects or step-by-step projects where the teacher tells the student how to create a certain, project step-by-step and the students follow along. Our goal in the Suder art room is to have students guide their own art learning and to have all sorts of different types of products when they're finished with their art making. So it's hard to do digitally because a lot of that has to do with how the environment is set up, but one way that you can do it at home is with loose parts. So I'm sure you guys are familiar with this kind of activity. Loose parts basically means lots of little objects. So in the art room, the way that we use loose parts is with kind of art provocations. So instead of the teacher telling a student, this is how you make a paper penguin, or this is how you make a snow globe or something like that, I put materials in front of the students and students will use those materials to create whatever they want. So basically what I did, this is kind of a cool fancy tray, but you don't need a box like this. You just need some kind of way to divide them up, whether that's small jars or little cups or any way that you can kind of have the loose parts separate. But this is all stuff that I just found pretty much around my house. I don't live with children, so I don't have a lot of craft supplies that are meant for children, although I do have a few, as you can see. We have little corn kernels, clothespins. This is actually just dry black beans. I have these little Dixie cups, so these are kind of cool for craft projects. Marbles. And these, I use actually these for plant stuff, but these are pretty cool marbles. Gift bows, I use these around the holidays, but they're cool for crafts. This is wrapping paper, again, that I have for wrapping presents, different patterns and colors. This is a great material to use. These are for the bottom of chairs or tables, but they're kind of cool because you can peel them off. They're kind of like those foam stickers. Rocks that I found outside. This is, I think, from a birthday cake, an old birthday cake. These are from inside of poop bags for dogs, so those are pretty cool. I have just a bunch of stickers that were given to me actually by Miss K. These are pretty cool stickers. Straws that I just cut up. I don't really use straws anymore, but I had a bunch left over. I have, of course, pom-poms. If you are going to buy a craft supply, I highly recommend pom-poms. These are little gravel bits for a fish tank. I think I also use these for plants. I have yarn and ribbon that I cut into short strips. Different fabrics, also that I just kind of cut up and put in here. Sticks and wood chips that I found in the garden. I have these stickers because I use them in my classroom, but these are awesome for craft supplies. Here is just a bunch of different magazine pages that I've cut up in little squares. Kids love using these because they have all sorts of different patterns. You can find letters, you can find like little faces sometimes, and they're really cool in a collage. We have thicker ribbon that I found just cut into little strips. I do have googly eyes, so that's kind of a classic craft supply, always useful. Tissue paper, all different colors. I've also cut these into small kind of kid-friendly pieces. And then this is my foil ball actually that I used for my cardboard arcade. But foil is also a really great material to use. So this is all sorts of different loose parts. I wouldn't necessarily put all of these in front of a kid. I would select maybe 3 or 4 and then maybe pick a surface and figure out what those provocations might look like. So first of all, what is a provocation? The way that we're using the word provocation is basically provoking creativity or inciting creativity within the child. So instead of giving them a step-by-step instruction, we are putting materials in front of the child to provoke or incite some kind of creativity. We're not worried about the product so much, we are worried more about the process and the child's engagement with the materials. So let me show you a couple of examples of what a provocation in art might look like. Okay, so an example of a provocation would be to select some of those materials from the loose parts box. And this is kind of a collage provocation, or obviously I'm kind of guiding them a little bit with the materials that are provided. But we have mostly the flat things like the tissue paper, different colorful papers, stickers. I've cut some pieces of tape here. They're kind of see-through, but they're here. And this helps kids, they don't have to actually cut that themselves. Yarn and a little bit of ribbon, googly eyes, all these kind of little collage items. You do have to provide them ways to kind of attach the objects, which is why I have the glue, we have tape, and we have even these stickers would be good for attaching. And if you just put this in front of a child, it will generally keep them busy for quite some time. And the products, I think, will even surprise you. All right, this next one is, if you have been at Suder for a little while, this is a project that I do almost every year because I love it so much, which is cardboard collage. And I do this with the early childhood students. You just put lots of different shapes of cardboard in front of them, some glue, and then a very sturdy surface. It could be an interesting shape, like a circle or a triangle. It can also just be a rectangle, which is great. The kids will stack these, they'll try to balance them, they'll build 3-dimensional structures, they'll put them together as like boats and planes and all sorts of other things that they can imagine. And if you add paint into it later on, that's even better. So one of my favorite parts of this project is at the end, I always ask the students to give their artwork a title. And they come up with the most beautiful, poetic, funny titles. And it just makes me realize how much is going on in a child's artwork that adults are just really not aware of. So I think this is a really cool, super simple project that kids really get engaged with. Okay, so as you start to introduce more sculptural elements, you can add in, the cups, the sticks, all of the little pom-poms and things like that. And you have to start thinking about how kids are attaching the items together. So the cardboard we just did with the cardboard collage, you can use glue pretty easily to attach those things. Sometimes it's nice if you introduce a hole punch, or if you have pipe cleaners or those craft stems, those are really great for tying objects together. But really, if you leave it to your child, they'll figure out pretty genius ways to attach things. And if things do not attach, then they learn that and they figure that out as they go. So this is more of a sculpture guided or a sculpture oriented provocation. And it's important that you have some kind of sturdy surface if you're using sculptural materials. If you're just using paper, obviously rocks and heavier objects are not great for paper. Alright, so that was 3 examples of what an art provocation might look like using loose parts. I think I really like this way of working for children because oftentimes as an adult I'm surprised at what they come up with and what they create. I find it much more rewarding as a teacher to see what children come up with and what creativity they have instead of seeing that they follow the steps that I provided for them to create what I told them to create. In the choice-based art room, we're teaching children how to be artists and how to think like artists. So following those step-by-steps is really not as important as teaching kids to use imagination and to use their motor skills to familiarize themselves with materials and really develop their own practice as an artist. So I'll be sharing more provocations. These are 3. Of course, if you have like actual craft supplies, paint is a really great one to incorporate. Clay or even the salt dough that we created, all of those things are great. Baking soda and vinegar, food coloring, things like that. But for now, those are the ones I'll introduce, and I hope you enjoyed. If you make your own provocations at home, I would love to see what you all come up with. I'll see you next time.